Minecraft today is just overwhelming. So let's go back to a simpler time. This is Minecraft, but it's 2011 again. So let's create a world, shall we? And so, I spawned into a Minecraft world just as millions of other players would have done 14 years ago now. It was a nice spawn and there were a few trees nearby, and so I ran over. Well, walked over. Sprinting hadn't been added yet. And then I mined the 2 trees and set out to find a nice base location. Now this small peninsula near spawn seemed rather nice, so I thought about making my base here, right next to spawn. And thus I began digging down, getting some stone, upgrading my tools, getting the area just prepped for a base. But you know what? I reckon there's probably a better place for a base rather than just my spawn location. Old Minecraft generation back in the day was very different. And so I switched up my plans and I set sail from the spawn island in search for a better location. And it was the old boats. I remember when these were added to the game back on the Xbox many years ago. And yeah, they aren't nearly as good as the ones that we have today. They're much slower, and they break against almost anything. But still, it was better than walking, and so I just sailed onwards, zooming across the vast Minecraft oceans. Until I found myself a nice little island. It had views of a nearby desert, and had the backdrop of a mountain, and had easy ocean access. This was perfect. Yeah, this is going to be my home base. And so I sailed right to the shore, and then I tried to leave my boat, which actually proved to be quite a challenge, since the controls of leaving entities were different in the old versions. But eventually I did figure it out, at which point my boat just escaped. So, now starting the build a base objective. I made a small wooden pole to signify where my base would actually be, and I set out to gather some resources. I killed cows, mined some coal, chopped down trees, slaughtered a few pigs, and gathered some wool. Soon the Minecraft music began to play. It felt like 2011 again. Sure, I would have been only 4 and hadn't played the game yet, but still, it felt nostalgic. But soon, night approached. Now, I was in no way prepared for nightfall. I hadn't even made a sword yet, but I did have some wool. And so using that, I was able to make a bed, which for some reason in old Minecraft was always red, which is kind of weird. But regardless, I just slept the night away. The following day, I spent my time gathering even more wood and setting up a plan of what my base would actually be like. So, given the great views and the ocean access, I decided that my base was going to be a small fishing hut, maybe with a wraparound porch for better views. Even at night I continued on this mission of building that hut, admiring the night sky as I did so. The music played once more. Oh, it was just such a peaceful time. Well, until the creeper showed up and I thought they were going to blow up my base and destroy all my progress. I don't know how creepers worked in this older version. But thankfully I was able to lure them into the water, so the base was fine. The explosion doesn't do anything when they're in the water. However, I did take a lot of damage. Now, in old Minecraft, there was no hunger mechanic, so I could just eat some of my pork and regain that health instantly. So that was nice. And so I spent the rest of that night fighting off skeletons and lighting up the area around my hut, just trying to survive and make sure that I was never attacked again. And with that, I had survived my first night. Now, the following days I mined more wood, expanded the home, adding the roof, adding the walls, adding the porch, mining some sand, placing some glass down. It was a nice little hut, and it was really fun to build. Oh, and I also collected my first wheat. It took a while to grow, but I was happy with that too. And so with my simple home now complete, I had a new objective. The quest for iron. And thus, I ventured into a nearby cave. There I found a deep cavern with lava dripping down into it. So obviously, I jumped down to investigate. I was able to find some more coal, and more importantly, my very first piece of iron. Now, getting back out of that cave, well, that took a while. Because in 2011 Minecraft, water movements were very slow. But eventually I did make it back, at which point I did have to fight a skeleton, and yeah, that might have nearly killed me. But with my immense skills of Minecrafting, I survived and thrived. Anyways, I returned back to my base and used the coal to make even more torches, smelt the iron, and then make my very first iron pickaxe. Now, before I could go back into the mines and collect even more iron, I was going to need some food. And so I began to forage around my base, killing all the pigs that I came across, because pigs back in old Minecraft were the only animals that you could eat. Now, in the process of doing that, I might have got a little bit distracted. Look, I found a shallow cave, and from that, I was able to find some more iron. It was just so easy. However, that might not have been the smartest idea, because I encountered a creeper. But I was able to easily kill that creeper with my stone sword that was infused with the subscribing powers. And yeah, you know what? If I can survive that, why don't I keep on exploring? In old Minecraft, mobs weren't nearly as smart as they are today, and phantoms hadn't yet been added, so there was no need to sleep. Plus, I do need more iron. And I think I'll be alright. And so, I ventured into some more caves, where I found some more iron and more coal. And as I explored the outside world looking for yet another cave, I came across some pumpkins, which I was kind of surprised to see in this old of a Minecraft version. Kinda cool. And then, the music played once more. But soon night was approaching, and I had no cave to hide in, nor did I have my base to seek comfort in. I was a little lost in the forest. But I can just ignore that, I should be fine. And so I just kept on walking, until I found the coast. At which point I made myself another boat, and began to sail the shores. I hoped that since I had built my base by the water, eventually I would stumble upon it. Like, that makes sense, doesn't it? I even found the spawn peninsula from earlier, which did break my boat when I went in too quickly. However, I was able to just make another boat and continue across the dark oceans towards my home base, which wasn't too far now. I knew where I was. Now, just as I was approaching, I accidentally sailed into that boat from earlier, you know, the one that had escaped me, which caused my boat to break once again. But with the old boat nearby, I was able to jump into that and return home in no time. There I cooked my food and left the iron to smelt as I once again ventured out into the vast terrain of 2011 Minecraft. Now, another thing that I was a little surprised to see in this version was the size of items when they drop. Particularly the cacti, like it just seemed kind of funny to me just how big the items appeared. But anyways, I continued on my journey through this great world, coming across many impressive landscapes and terrain, with resource-rich lands that were just waiting to be exploited. And eventually, I even came across a pack of wolves. Now, I didn't even know wolves were in Minecraft by 2011. I thought those came way later. But regardless, I had some bones, and so I decided to tame one. Sure, they aren't as good as cats, but a small companion would still be nice. And so continued my adventures with my good buddy, Dog. Well, that's not good. At least Dog survived though. Oh wait! No! I returned as quick as I could, but everything that I was holding had despawned. And Dog was gone. So I made a little monument for my short-lived companion. And so yet again, I ventured back out into the wild lands of 2011 Minecraft. Soon, I came across another small cave entrance, and so cautiously, I began to explore. I found quite a bit of iron, and quite a bit of coal, Oh, and the cave kept on going deeper and deeper with even more resources. I just followed along and soon I stumbled into a dungeon. There were quite a few spiders, but I was able to neutralize that threat and gather all the great dungeon loot before heading even deeper into that cave. Like, this was a pretty big cave, alright? So I was able to get even more iron and even more coal, and soon I even found some gold and redstone and even some lapis. Again, with lapis, I didn't even think it was in the game by 2011, so that was kind of shocking to see. Now, I don't even think you can enchant in this version, so it's not the most useful material. But, it looks cool. So I just continued on my mission of exploring this cave and gathering even more resources, and soon I had almost a stack of iron ore. So I decided that whilst I was down there, I would smelt it and make some armour. So whilst that was cooking, I once again continued to venture around the cave network, and there was quite a lot of lava, so I had to be careful with that. Oh, and I even found my very first diamond. Now, there were 2 whole diamond ores, but I'm fairly certain that that's all this cave had to offer. Like, I'm fairly certain I'd explored the entire cave at that point. And so I returned to my furnaces, crafted my armour, and finally, I began heading home. This quest was a success. Once home, I sorted out all my loot, and I was really happy with it. But, you know, I could do with some more diamonds. And so just behind my fishing hut, I began digging a mineshaft all the way down to bedrock. And then I had to build up a little bit to Y level 12, because there's no deep slate or negative Y levels in these old versions of Minecraft. So once again, Y level 12 was the best diamond level. That feels a bit weird to say. It's been a while since Y level 12 was actually good for mining. And so began the strip mine, heading in one random direction for however long it would take for me to find some diamonds. And I kept on going, and going, breaking multiple iron pickaxes. It seemed a little bit hopeless, until at last I found some diamonds, and it was a rather big vein. But I didn't stop there, I kept going after that, until I made my way into a large cave. And right by the part that I just mined into, I found even more diamonds. It was great! And so I began to explore that cave, hoping to find some additional diamonds. But before I would, I saw a torch. I looked around and I realised this looked a little familiar. Oh wait, this is the same cave network that I was in before. Oh, so I must have just missed that, I guess? What are the chances of that? But anyways, with these new diamonds and all this lava around, an opportunity had just been presented to me. I could make a diamond pickaxe and mine some obsidian. I was going to need 14 blocks of obsidian, but that's for later, and I'll explain that when we get to it. So, after ensuring that this time there truly was nothing else in that cave, I returned to my mine, and I carried on going forward until my final iron pickaxe had broken and my inventory was full. Sadly, I didn't find any more diamonds, so I returned back to my home base. Now, I had a lot of cobblestone at this point, and I kind of wanted to build something new, and so using all that cobblestone that I just collected, I was able to make myself a massive fort along the northeast coast by my island. It was a nice monument to view from my fishing cabin, and it fits with the vibe of this old Minecraft world. It makes it feel like this was a port that actually needed some protecting. Now, there's no sugarcane in this version of Minecraft, but I still wanted to have something along my coastline, and that's when the idea of cacti came to mind. It's kind of like sugarcane, so maybe that could work as a decoration. I was near a desert, and so I gathered up all the cacti that I could hold, and then I began placing it down. Now, about halfway through doing that, I decided to build a little bridge, and so afterwards I just needed to move the cacti back into my main hotbar and start placing it again, when I accidentally closed my inventory, which caused the cacti to be dropped, and it was destroyed by a cactus. You know, in old Minecraft, quality of life changes, such as items not just falling out your inventory when you go to craft or close it, or hotkeying even. Yeah, they didn't exist yet. So they were just kind of annoying things you had to deal with. But anyways, I was forced to just collect some more cactus, and I was able to place all that down, and then I made some more torches, and I lit up the area around my base, and it was looking quite nice, like it was all going really well, until I got shot by a skeleton. Thankfully that was just by my fort, so it didn't take too long to recover. And then, the following day, I decided to construct a bridge from the little fishing hut that was my main base, over a lake, and to my cobblestone fort. And yeah, that looked nice. And with that complete, I was now finally ready to do the thing that this base was built for. Fish, like this was a fishing hut after all, and fishing is very calming here in Minecraft. I liked it, and I had many different places to fish from. It was fun. I was able to gather a lot of fish, which I promptly cooked. And with that, I was ready for the biggest quest that any 2011 world could offer. And so I retrieved the 14 obsidian blocks from earlier, and I headed over to my fort. For it was there that I was finally able to access
the Nether.
But the old Nether was kind of peaceful, so I just mined some netherrack, harvested some glowstone, just looked around this new landscape, and although there was a ghast, it wasn't very accurate, so I was safe. And there really wasn't much else to do out there, and so I just returned home. But then, using those resources, I decided to build a lighthouse opposite my fort. Once again, I thought that would fit in with the nostalgic vibes of a 2011 Minecraft world. Oh, and I added some more torches around the area too. And with that, I had a rather nostalgic base area. Like, this was perfect for a 2011 Minecraft world. I had really enjoyed my time making all of this, and I was proud of the progress that we had achieved. But let's be honest with ourselves, we aren't in 2011 anymore. We're in 2025 now, where leaves have particle effects, oceans have horrifying ambience, and the villagers have somehow turned evil? Wait, you haven't heard the news yet, have you? Well, watch this video and you can learn about the new evil ways of the villagers.